Have you ever felt like you're missing a secret manual for understanding people? A guide to navigating those tricky social and professional waters with, like, genuine ease, not just going through the motions.
Oh, absolutely. It's a universal feeling, isn't it? That desire for a deeper connection, maybe a roadmap to better relationships. And for millions, really across generations, one particular source has been exactly that.
Right. So today we're embarking on a deep dive into a book that, well, it truly became a cultural phenomenon. Dale Carnegie's How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Mm.
What's really remarkable isn't just its staying power, but how its, seemingly simple ideas.
Mm.
They expose these fundamental truths about human psychology, truths we still kind of get wrong even now.
It's funny, when it first came out back in 1937, the publisher only expected to sell maybe 5,000 copies. Can you imagine?
Wow, only 5,000.
Yeah. But it just took off. An overnight sensation selling tens of millions all over the world. The title itself, it's practically an idiom now. Carnegie himself was even called the archpriest of the art of making friends. And the fascinating thing is why his work still feels so vital today.
That really is the core question, isn't it? And there's some striking research on this from the Carnegie Foundation and the Carnegie Institute of Technology. They found that even in really technical fields like engineering, something like 85%, a whopping 85% of someone's financial success comes down to what they called human engineering.
Human engineering, meaning personality, the ability to lead people.
Exactly. And only, what, 15% was actual technical knowledge?
Think about that for a second. Even now, in our super techie, AI-focused world, that 85-15 split is still, well, shockingly relevant. You could be the most brilliant coder, the best engineer, but if you can't, lead a team or influence stakeholders or just plain get along with folks,
Your potential is limited.
dramatically limited. And it's not just about being nice either. It's a foundational skill. Just as critical now as it was almost a century ago. John D. Rockefeller got it. He famously said he'd pay more for the ability to deal with people than for any other under the sun.
And that really is the mission for you listening to this deep dive. There was this huge survey, cost $25,000 back then, asking adults what they most wanted to learn. Number one was health, no surprise there. But number two, right behind it, how to understand and get along with people, how to make people like you, and how to win others to your way of thinking.
So, yeah, our goal today is basically to give you a shortcut to mastering that incredibly essential skill.
What I find really compelling about Carnegie's approach is that this wasn't just him sitting in a room thinking things up. This book grew out of a real laboratory of human relationships, right?
Absolutely. He'd been running courses in New York since 1912, started with public speaking. But he quickly saw that his students, mostly business and professional adults, needed more than just good speeches. They needed skills in human relations.
So the book wasn't academic theory. It was forged in the real world.
Exactly. Thousands of adults in his classes, their experiences, their problems. That was the crucible.
And he really did his homework. He didn't just rely on his classes. He read everything he could find, hired a researcher for like a year and a half to just dig through libraries.
Right. Studied hundreds of biographies, leaders from Julius Caesar all the way to Thomas Edison.
And he talked to people, too. Personally interviewed famous figures like Marconi, Edison, FDR, even Clark Gable, all to figure out the practical ways they connected with people.
And the key thing is, these weren't just theories he cooked up. The rules, as he called them, were developed through 15 years of real experiment and research, tested by thousands in his courses. He saw these principles work like magic, actually transforming people's lives and relationships.
And there are some great stories illustrating that magic, like the employer with over 300 employees.
Well, yeah, the 314 employees.
Right. He shifted his whole approach, stopped criticizing constantly, started showing genuine appreciation. And he said his organization went from feeling like 314 enemies to 314 friends.
Imagine that shift. Increased loyalty, enthusiasm, teamwork. He even said the janitor started calling him by his first name, which apparently never happened before.
It shows the ripple effect. Or what about the sophisticated art dealer?
Yes, the well-traveled, worldly guy. He heard one talk on these ideas and was so struck by them he couldn't sleep for 2 days. He saw his own mistakes, felt like a new and richer world was opening up. These weren't small tweaks, they were fundamental shifts.
It really makes you think about what Professor William James at Harvard said. Compared to what we ought to be, we are only half awake.
We are making use of only a small part of our physical and mental resources. He talked about our dormant and unused assets.
And that's what this deep dive is about, helping you uncover and use those assets. Carnegie himself called his book an action book, something to do, not just read. So let's dive into that first fundamental technique he outlines. It's a big one. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Now, often we think, criticism is necessary, it's direct, it fixes problems, or maybe it's just how we vent. But Carnegie argues pretty strongly against it. What's the core issue? Why is criticism often so ineffective?
Well, the main problem is that criticism, even if you mean well, is often just futile. It almost instantly puts the other person on the defensive.
Right, they immediately start trying to justify themselves.
Exactly. Instead of reflecting or listening, they're building walls. It wounds their pride, their sense of importance, and it almost always stirs up resentment. It's meant to help, but it usually just creates resistance.
He gives some pretty wild examples of this human tendency, this blind spot we all seem to have. Remember Two Gun Crowley, the cop killer?
Oh, yeah. Trapped in a shootout, police all around him bleeding, and he writes a letter.
Claiming, "Under my coat is a weary heart, but a kind one that would do nobody any harm." Can you believe it? And on death row, he still insisted he was just defending myself.
It's mind-boggling. And Al Capone, America's public enemy #1. He saw himself as a public benefactor. Just, misunderstood.
Unappreciated.
Exactly. Warden Lewis Laws, who ran Sing Sing prison, he observed that few of the criminals regard themselves as bad men. They rationalize, they explain.
So if notorious criminals genuinely see themselves that way, what does that say about, regular people, our colleagues, our family?
It tells us that pretty much everyone sees themselves as the hero of their own story, right? No matter how flawed that perspective might seem to others. And that's a huge psychological barrier if you're trying to change someone through criticism.
It really is.
The behavioral scientist B.F. Skinner showed this with animals, too. Reward works way better than punishment for learning. And it holds true for humans. The psychologist Hans Selye put it well, as much as we thirst for approval, we dread condemnation. Criticism just doesn't stick. It breeds resentment.
History's full of examples of criticism backfiring. Think about Theodore Roosevelt and President Taft. TR's harsh criticism of Taft basically split the Republican Party.
Did it change Taft's mind? Nope. He famously said, with tears in his eyes, "I don't see how I could have done any differently." The criticism just made him double down.
But there's a flip side, a story of transformation. Abraham Lincoln himself learned this lesson the hard way.
That's right. As a young man, he apparently used to criticize people publicly, even wrote anonymous attacks. One time, he ridiculed a politician so badly.
It also led to a duel with broadswords on a sandbar.
Crazy, right? But that experience taught him an invaluable lesson, as Carnegie put it. After that, Lincoln almost never criticized anybody for anything.
Even during the Civil War, with generals making huge mistakes, he adopted that famous phrase, "with malice toward none, with charity for all." He held his tongue, not out of weakness, but wisdom.
And that story about the letter he wrote to General Meade after Gettysburg, it's so powerful. Lincoln was absolutely furious Meade had let Lee's army escape.
He wrote this scathing letter saying how immeasurably distressed he was.
But he never sent it.
Why not?
He realized it wouldn't achieve anything positive. It would just wound Meade, make him defensive, maybe even force him to resign. It wouldn't help win the war.
He saw it's water under the bridge now. That harsh criticism almost always ends in futility. Wow, that takes incredible self-control.
It does. So the takeaway is pretty clear. Criticism, even when you think it's justified, usually backfires. It makes people defensive, resentful. It's the easy thing to do, maybe, but rarely the effective thing.
Any fool can criticize, condemn, and complain, and most fools do. That's a sharp quote from the book.
But it takes character and self-control to be understanding and forgiving.
Okay, so if tearing people down, criticizing, is so often futile, what's the constructive alternative? What does Carnegie say is the only way to actually get people to do things?
Right. This leads straight into his second big principle, give honest and sincere appreciation. And he makes a really bold claim here. He says, there is only one way under high heaven to get anybody to do anything.
One way. That's it.
By making the other person want to do it. Think about that. Not forcing, not cajoling, but making them want to.
It seems so obvious when you say it, but we forget it all the time. He uses that great fishing analogy, doesn't he?
He does. He says, he likes strawberries and cream, but fish prefer worms.
So when he goes fishing?
He doesn't bait the hook with strawberries. He baits it with what the fish wants.
And the lesson for people is,
why talk about what we want? The only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it. It's all about shifting your focus to their needs, their desires.
And this ties into a really deep human need, doesn't it? Something psychologists and philosophers have pointed to again and again.
Exactly. People like Sigmund Freud talked about the desire to be great. John Dewey called it the deepest urge in human nature, the desire to be important.
William James put it simply, the deepest principle in human nature is the craving to be appreciated.
It's not just a casual wish, it's a fundamental, gnawing and unfaltering human hunger. We need to feel important, valued.
And Carnegie argues this flaming urge drives everything, doesn't it? Both the good and the bad.
Yeah, it's what pushed Lincoln to study law, or Dickens to write novels, or Rockefeller to build hospitals. That desire for significance, for importance.
But it can also go wrong. He points out that many young criminals join gangs seeking that same feeling, just in a destructive way. They want to be a hero, even if it's a negative one.
It's a stark contrast. Rockefeller finding importance by funding a modern hospital in Peking versus Dillinger finding it by robbing a bank and bragging, "I'm Dillinger," as people cowered. Same underlying urge, drastically different expressions.
And the book even touches on how desperate this need can be, how it can lead to, well, really extreme behaviors if it's not met.
It's sobering. He mentions examples like Mrs. McKinley demanding attention from the president, or even patients in mental institutions who create elaborate fantasies where they finally get the importance and love they crave in reality.
Like the woman who believed she was Lady Smith and had achieved great social status.
Right. If people would literally rather retreat into insanity than live without feeling important. It really highlights the power we have when we do offer genuine appreciation, the positive impact we can have.
That really puts it in perspective.
Yeah.
And this connects to what Carnegie calls the $1 million secret, right? The story about Charles Schwab.
Ah, yes, Charles Schwab, paid over $1 million a year by Andrew Carnegie way back in the 1920s, which was an astronomical sum.
And Schwab himself said he wasn't paid primarily for his knowledge of steel.
No, he said Carnegie paid him that much, largely for his ability to arouse enthusiasm in people.
How did he do that?
His philosophy was simple but powerful. I am anxious to praise, but loath to find fault. If I like anything, I am hearty in my approbation and lavish in my praise. He believed strongly that criticism from superiors crushes ambition, which, makes sense.
It's the complete opposite of how many people operate, isn't it? Quick to point out flaws, slow to offer praise.
Exactly. That old saying captures it. Once I did bad, and that I heard ever. Twice I did good, but that I heard never. We tend to notice the negative more easily.
But Carnegie makes a crucial distinction here, doesn't he? Between sincere appreciation and just flattery.
Oh, absolutely critical. Flattery, he says, is shallow, it's selfish, it's insincere. It's basically telling the other person precisely what he thinks about himself. People can usually see right through it.
There's that quote from General Obregon he uses.
Don't be afraid of enemies who attack you. Be afraid of the friends who flatter you. Flattery is counterfeit appreciation.
So what makes appreciation sincere?
It comes from the heart. It's genuine. It's unselfish. It's about actually noticing and valuing the good qualities or efforts in another person and then expressing that. We often take people for granted, especially those closest to us. He mentioned studies showing lack of appreciation as a major reason for marital problems, for people leaving jobs.
It's amazing how powerful a simple, genuine compliment can be. Like that anecdote about the husband whose wife asked him to list 6 things she could improve.
Right. Instead of criticizing, what did he do?
He sent her 6 red roses with a note saying, "I can't think of 6 things I would like to change about you. I love you the way you are."
And the impact, profound appreciation, deep emotion, it completely changed the dynamic.
We also hear about people like Florian Ziegfeld, the Broadway producer. He made his chorus girls feel important and beautiful, not just through compliments, but through genuine respect and paying them well.
Yeah, he glorified the American girl, as they said. And think about that Paul Harvey story about Stevie Wonder.
Oh, right, when he was a young blind boy named Stevie Morris.
His teacher noticed his amazing hearing, and instead of focusing on his blindness, she gave him a task that highlighted his strength, finding a lost mouse in the classroom using his ears.
And that simple act of appreciation.
Paul Harvey said it was the beginning of a new life for Stevie Wonder. It showed him he had value, a unique gift. That's the power of sincere recognition.
The actor Alfred Lund said, "There is nothing I need so much as nourishment for my self-esteem." It's so true. We feed our bodies every day, but how often do we consciously feed our own or others' self-esteem?
It's a great question. This principle isn't just a tactic to influence people, it's about building genuinely richer, more positive relationships.
Okay, so we've unpacked these two foundational principles.
Hmm.
Ditch the criticism, embrace honest appreciation. Now, how do we actually make these stick? How do you, listening right now, take this from, interesting ideas to actual habits?
Well, Carnegie himself gave some great advice on that, and the absolute starting point, he insists, is having a deep, driving desire to learn, a real vigorous determination to get better at dealing with people.
So it starts with motivation. You have to genuinely want it.
Exactly. Without that internal drive, nothing else really works. You need to keep reminding yourself why this matters to you, how mastering these skills will genuinely make your life, richer, fuller, happier.
And it's not just a one-time lesson. Right?
Yeah.
He suggests really engaging with the material.
Definitely. Reread, or in this case, re-listen to the key ideas. Pause frequently. Ask yourself, okay, how and when can I actually use this suggestion? Maybe today.
Connect it to real life.
Connected to your actual interactions. We're trying to build new habits here, and habits take practice. Consistent, conscious effort.
Like turning it into a game almost.
Yeah, he suggested that. Or adopting a system like that successful Wall Street banker used. The guy had very little formal education, but became a top financier.
What is his secret?
Every Saturday night, he did a kind of weekly review, a self-examination.
Looking back on his week.
Yep. He'd ask himself, what mistakes did I make in dealing with people? What did I do that was right? What lessons can I learn? He admitted it wasn't always fun, especially at first, but over time, he made fewer blunders. His ability to handle people just grew and grew.
That kind of regular self-analysis focused on these principles. That sounds incredibly powerful.
It really is priceless for building these skills into who you are.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, let's just quickly bring it back to those two core ideas. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain, and give honest and sincere appreciation. These aren't just like nice manners. They're based on deep truths about how people tick. Applying them can genuinely change your interactions, your relationships, your whole world.
They absolutely can. It's about building bridges, not walls. Recognizing that fundamental human need to feel important, valued, understood.
Which brings us to maybe a personal challenge for you, our listener. Henry Ford said something really wise. If there is any one secret of success, it lies in the ability to get the other person's point of view and see things from that person's angle as well as from your own.
That ability to see from another's perspective, Carnegie implies most people ignore it most of the time.
Imagine the difference if you consciously tried to shift that, even just a little in your own life.
And think back to that idea about the need for importance. If people will go to such lengths, even negative ones, to feel significant, imagine the positive force you can unleash just by helping people around you feel genuinely valued.
It's not just about influencing them, is it? It's about creating a better environment for everyone, including yourself, leading a richer, fuller life.
Absolutely.
So, the challenge is to start today. Look for those small moments. Can you understand instead of criticize? Can you offer genuine appreciation instead of silence or complaint? Because, as that old saying goes, I shall pass this way but once. What good will you do with this understanding? What appreciation will you give today?